psychological warfare. The psychological warfare that's going on the melanin dominant being in America has been going on for over 400 years. And so when you have 400 years of something that's permeating through to your cells, it will cause a lot of doubt, right? The codes that come from Africa or from our ancestry, our ancestral bloodline is just not vibrating in the sense that it is here in Africa. In America, the psychological warfare is all about us looking around and seeing that we can't wear our natural hair without feeling like we don't belong or we're misplaced. And in Africa, you can do whatever you want with your hair and you look like your sister, you look like your auntie, you look like mommy. And it's absolutely the natural way. Whereas in America, we're still trying to figure out how to fit in the corporate world. And if I wear my hair like this, is it going to be too exotic? The women in Africa are exotic. And the women in America, we're still trying to be confident in being exotic, because we've been beat down, not just on a physical level, but on a cellular and molecular soul level. And so we're trying to overcome that.
Hello everybody, welcome to Just for Women Africa, and my name is Olaleko. I'm also the founder of Just for Women Africa, and today we're on a Zoom interview all the way from California, United States. We have with us Dr. Tashema Haynes, who is the CEO and founder of Corinthium and Integrative Healing Practice. She's a leader, she's an educator, also a speaker. She also has a transformative systematic practice that she teaches she teaches ancient energy medicine, personal transformation, self-discovery, soul resemblance, and so on. You're welcome to the show, Dr. Tashema.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that's fine. All right, my first question will be, what is ancient energy medicine?
Okay, so thank you for having me. Quantum energy medicine is all about, so what we do is we teach that we all exist on 5 bodies of consciousness, and that's going to be your physical, your vital body of consciousness. You have your emotional body of consciousness, your subtle, and your super consciousness, right? And so what we teach is how to align your meridians, right? Your meridians is going to be your energy fields, and that's the main 7. You've heard of them all the time. Everybody always speaks about aligning the energy fields. And so what we do is we teach you that if you're imbalanced, right, that quantum medicine teaches you that there's a downward causation. And what do we mean by that? Downward causation is all about everything happens from the subtle body of consciousness before it ever hits the physical body of consciousness. And so it teaches us to read energy. What we do in our practice is we have different modalities that teach us to read your energy, right? The 7 chakras, which are the energy fields. And we can tell just about reading your energy fields, and with a lot more testing with different modalities, where your root cause of what's happened to you come from. And most times, 80% of the people that we've tested, a lot of their misalignments the ailments have come from childhood trauma or past life trauma. And so what happens is when they get into this life, the body going into disease, right, which is dis-ease, is allowing them to rectify the disease on the subtle body of consciousness. So we heal on all bodies of consciousness. So I've had people that come in my practice and they have a lot of different autoimmune diseases. And we start with, obviously, we go through a functional medicine practice where we do blood work. And we go in and we see how and what is really going on. And so we go through all bodies of consciousness and different testing in order to read the energetics to see exactly what's taking place.
Wow, that's a lot to take in. Okay. So is it really important for somebody to come in? Yeah, I know. Is it really important for somebody to come in and have, those tests done?
Yes. So what I found is something as simple as your vitamin D levels can throw, especially a melanin dominant, individual, it can completely throw the body into, you can go into all kind of dysfunctions as far as your endocrine system just by not having the vitamin D levels that you need. And being in America, I haven't tested anyone from the continent yet, and I've just started my practice here. But what I found is 99% of the Black people in America is deficient in their vitamin D. And what we have to understand about vitamin D is the trigger and the activator of different receptors. And what are those receptors? The detoxification receptors. And if you don't have the adequate amount of vitamin D, what's happening? Then you're throwing your body, into these different ailments, and it's not at homeostasis. And so just something as simple as vitamin D levels can start the process of you being very, very sick. So it's very important that we once a year, get these energetics done.
Okay. So what can you say is the cause of the reason why people of color in America have low vitamin D?
Oh gosh, so many different things. I'll tell you, most importantly, the food and the inoculation program. What we've been studying, me and my colleagues, is that the inoculation programs have really been turning off different receptors. And what happens is it robs the body of the vitamin D, all of the minerals that it needs. And so a vitamin D is actually a hormone. So if you're tampering with a hormone through genetically modified foods, stress is a huge part of it. Stress can cause disease because of the cortisol levels that's in the body. So when it comes to a melanin dominant, a Black person who comes into my office, the first thing that I'm going to check is their vitamin D levels, because that's going to tell me how you're handling stress. It's also going to tell me what your environment is like, and it's going to tell me what's happening inside of there. And so it's going to tell me about a lot of other levels that are off. But vitamin D low levels can come from not just the lack of sunlight, because you can go, and I've seen clients who, okay, Dr. Tashema, I need more sun. They go get in the sun and their levels are still not going up. The reason for that is because the body is not even able to have the communication with the sun that it needs to, because all of the receptors are turned off.
Okay.
And the reason why those are turned off is because of, what's happened just from childhood trauma with inoculation programs, wrong food, and different things like that.
Okay. That's quite interesting to know. All right. During our conversation, you mentioned that you're now opening up a practice in Africa, in Ghana. Why have you shifted from California in the United States, and why do you want to focus your practice here in Africa, in Ghana?
So we're military. We're prior military. My husband just retired last year. He was in the military for 22 and a half years, the Marine Corps. And so we've been all over the world. And we had heard this big thing about Ghana. We had, met people from Ghana who had traveled to Ghana. And so for us, it was like, well, let's go to the continent. Let's go to the motherland. And so we was here last year, and then we left because we didn't think that we could fare well here. But then when we went back to buy a big house and the cars and everything that they say you're supposed to enjoy when you retire, we just couldn't enjoy it. At month 7, we missed Ghana so much. And so while my practice is a concierge practice, and what a concierge practice is that I can treat you and I can do everything that I need to do with you. We can do it, virtually. So as long as I have the different places, the allopathic medicine that will help me, like for instance, take blood work and different things like that, I can treat you from right where I am. So we decided, well, let's go back to Ghana. And so we came back to Ghana. We've been back for 4 months now. And I met this time around so many amazing people. And it was like, yeah, let's stay and start my practice here, because so many people have had questions. And so I decided this is the best place to be right now.
Okay, that's really a good reason to come back to Ghana. I mean, you missing Ghana enough is enough reason to come back to Ghana. All right. Okay, but you did mention things like blood work and all that. Have you been able to identify laboratories here in Ghana that meets the standards where you come from in California?
Yes, I have. And so the difference here is that Ghana deal with predominantly melanin dominant individuals, right? And so whereas in the States, they are akin to, their standards are that of a white male. So when we are sick in America, we're very, very sick. So for instance, let's talk about the hemoglobin. When we're in America and our hemoglobin is at 9, a Black body is very, very sick. That's very low for a Black body. We need the oxygen permeating through the blood. But for that of a melanin recessive, which is a Caucasian, a white individual, that's quite okay. You see, and so here in Ghana, what we found, even with my husband, he was going through some issues when we got here, and we was trying to get, him back aligned. And he went to a Ghanaian doctor, and the doctor was reading the blood work the way I read them for a melanin dominant individual in my practice, versus the way an allopathic doctor in America would read someone. So he would say at a 9, oh no, that's just too low. Like, you've been low for a long time. And then he wants to get to the root cause of it. However, in America, it's just like, oh no, it's pretty, it's pretty low, but you're okay. So yes, I found that it's very different.
Okay, all right, that's fine. All right, so so have your practice fully opened up here in Ghana here now, or you're still to be opened up later in the year?
So it'll be opened up later in the year. We're building. So what we've come back to do is we have partnered with some amazing transformative thinkers and brains here, and we're building communities. And so our first community that we build in my practice will be in that community. And so that should be done within about, I don't know, maybe the end of the year or so, maybe before. But right now we've already started, pushing the plan, the land, and all these different things. And so I'll say by the end of the year, we should be ready to go.
Okay, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So you've been in Ghana for how long so far?
So the second time we've been here 4 months.
Okay.
The first time we was here for 8 months.
Okay. All right. So this is Just for Women Africa. Happen to, I mean, you've grown up in the United States in California, and you're having to move to Africa. What have some of the differences you've seen so far with a woman in America and a woman here in Africa and Ghana?
Confidence. And I mean confidence from an internal space. The women here are confident. Like, I've not seen a woman hold her head down in Ghana, not for the reasons of, what we would in America. I just feel like they know that they come from a fabric of strength, whereas the women in, America, we're still trying to figure it out. While we're strong there, we still don't know, just like where we're anchored, and I feel like right now in America, a lot of Black women are going through, are we Native American or are we African? Are we from Africa? Are we from the continent? Because we're awakening in America, the Black women, and we are trying to figure out, like, where do we belong? And so I think that the women here are very much attached to a fabric of strength that we have yet to still discover. So it's definitely a big difference between us.
Okay, so what do you think is the reason why there is that difference? You mentioned women here in Ghana are confident, but in America, women are still yet to discover themselves. What do you think is the reason for that?
Psychological warfare. The psychological warfare that's going on the melanin dominant being in America has been going on for over 400 years. And so when you have 400 years of something that's permeating through to your cells, it will cause a lot of doubt, right? The codes that come from Africa or from our ancestry, our ancestral bloodline, is just not vibrating in a sense that it is here in Africa. In America, the psychological warfare is all about us looking around and seeing that we can't wear our natural hair without feeling like we don't belong or we're misplaced. And in Africa, you can do whatever you want with your hair and you look like your sister, you look like your auntie, you look like mommy. And it's absolutely the natural way. Whereas in America, we're still trying to figure out how to fit in the corporate world. And if I wear my hair like this, is it going to be too exotic? The women in Africa are exotic. And the women in America, we're still trying to be confident in being exotic, because we've been beat down, not just on a physical level, but on a cellular and molecular soul level. And so we're trying to overcome that.
That's really interesting. I've never really heard anybody talk like this before. All right, so are you saying that the Me Too movement hasn't really changed that in any way?
What? No, not for the real Black woman. Not for the real Black woman. For the Black woman who knows that she's more than the Me Too movement. The Me Too movement has nothing to do with her. She's looking for something that's really the fabric of something that is from beyond her years. And the woman that's in the Me Too movement is looking for something that's for now in the third dimensional aspect. Me Too movement hasn't done anything for the real Black woman.
Okay, so what do you think can be done for the women in America or in Europe, the Black women in America and Europe, can be done for them to find themselves and feel that they're truly valued? They can wear their hair and they're not going to be discriminated, and they can walk around town with their head up, feeling confident.
Home. Because listen, I'm gonna tell you something. I am Native. My tribe is Choctaw, and in my process and in my discovery of trying to figure out who I am, I found out that I was Native. But I'm also, everyone, in my opinion, geographically belongs to this continent. I believe that there was a lot of migration from here, whether it was through slavery or just saying, hey, we're just gonna go find some other land. But I think coming home, when you come here, you experience the spirit of, I call her Mother Africa, that shows you that you are okay. You are the first woman and you are the mommy, of this world. You feel it, you see it around you. And I think that so some of my closest friends here now are, coming back from the UK, doing the same thing we did, just from a different geographical location. And we're all speaking about these very things that you and I are talking about. And the big thing is to come back home, first of all, and cross-pollinate. Say, what happened to you over on the continent? What happened to you over on the continent? Because all we know is that this is colonial warfare, and we can see it in each other because we come back and we have a certain posture. But when we see the Ghanaian woman, we like, that's real strength. That's where we're trying to be.
Wow, that's really interesting. I never knew about all these dynamics. I'm not learning that from you, and it's really mind-boggling. Okay, so let's get back to business. You've been in California, you're now moving to Ghana. What's your expectations for moving to Ghana? I mean, now that you're going to set up your own practice and, practicing what you love.
My expectation from Ghana is to implement systems that people can trust, and I'm not saying that people cannot trust all Ghana, but let's face it, when the first thing you hear when you come here is that, oh, you can't trust it, and I did have an experience the first time around where we did feel that we couldn't trust, right? We felt distrustful. And so my idea is to implement a system that we can trust people from all around the world, but basically speaking to the people where I come from, the Black American, right? That they can come here, they can migrate here, and they can transition, a smooth transition, and that they can fall into a system that they trust, people that look like them, people that understand. And that could still be the Ghanaian woman, but dealing with them on a vibration of that, this is how the American woman thinks or the American man thinks. So my expectation is that we can implement something that can make Ghana the universal hub.
Okay, making Ghana universal hub is definitely something to look forward to. All right, so as we bring the interview to a close, can you tell us what's your advice to women out there in Africa who are watching you right now, or in the diaspora, in Europe, in America, who feel that it's a man's world, who feel that it's difficult to set up a business, who feel that they get sexually harassed by men, who feel that they cannot get ahead without having a man having this, saying, asking for a sexual favor and all. What's your advice to them?
Oh, I'm going to be very, very intentional the way I answer this, because I am a part of being sexually harassed and all kind of things, feeling like it's a man's world. In fact, my last job, which was the reason why I got my PhD, one of the reasons is because I experienced that on such a level that almost broke me as a woman, but not just a woman, a Black woman. And I knew that they were intentionally trying to break me as a Black woman. So what I would say to my sisters is, find your sister, find your brother, even a man that is pouring into you and allowing you to understand exactly who you are. I also talk more about self-development and self-discovery, because once you follow these elements and you come into the evolution of who you really are, then you really know that this is not a man's world at all, because they couldn't be here without us. They had to come through a womb, right? Anyways, if you're Christian, you would totally disregard that, right? But I'm telling you, this is not a man's world. What about that anymore? Because there's a divine feminine energy that's being ushered into our awareness. And I believe that the people who are not in that divine feminine energy that's being ushered into our awareness, I think that we should look for someone who you look up to, who you feel has the power, who you feel can, kind of guide you and mentor you, and start from there.
I do agree with you. Find a man or woman or somebody who can mentor you, and you start from there. You mentioned something. I'm not sure if I should ask the question, but okay, let me just ask you the question. Since you said you've been through it, somebody might be watching and could learn from it. You did mention that you've been a victim of sexual, what's the word? Harassment.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry, you did mention you've been a victim of sexual harassment. So women out there, what advice can you give to them on how to cope with such a situation like that?
Yeah. You know, it's very hard because I feel in a corporate world, you just have to know who you are, because there's no such thing. Because what if it's coming from the higher up, the actual highest person in the corporation, where you can't say anything? And I say that's where self-exploration come in at. And I say that because you cannot be afraid to leave, and you have to know what you bring to a company and a community. When I left that community, I became a doctor. You understand? So we're in a space where we have to really cultivate, right, and nurture who we are. What do I bring to the company, right? Who am I, and how am I valued? And if you're not being valued, I really encourage the woman to leave. And I also sued the company, so don't be afraid to do that either.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that. Definitely have to sue, and if you don't feel valued, just walk away. All right. Okay. Yeah. So as we bring the interview to a close, to viewers who are watching who would love to come see you, come to your service at the Quantum Integrated Healing Practice, and have a feel of your services, could you give out your contact details on how they could reach you and how they could book an appointment?
Yeah. So you know what, the easiest way is to go to IG and click on in the bio. You can book an appointment with me in my medical practice. You can get on my calendar and you have a consultation for this month, and next month is free consultations. So I have a medical practice, but also a spiritual practice. But either way, whatever you book for, we can kind of triage you to see exactly where you belong. So if you go to Dr. Tashema on IG, click in my bio, you can get my calendar.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Tashema. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Wish you all the best. It's been lovely interviewing you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And so viewers who are watching, do not forget to click subscribe. Tell a friend who knows a friend about Just for Women Africa. And to the next one from Dr. Tashema and I, it will be bye.